Okay, so when bringing your images over from your camera to your computer, you can do it by the album software, or you can take it into Lightroom or some other photo album styling. What we're going to do here is avoid the albums or the wizards, and we're going to actually use my computer and locate the photos folder on the desktop, and I'm going to just quickly show you how I organize my images. So initially I'm going to go into the start button and up to my computer, and whenever I click on that, on the left hand side I'm going to navigate down and I'm going to look for photos. I'm going to look for the year. I'm going to expand the year. I'm going to find the month and expand the month, and you can see here that I already have several items in there where I have photographed this month. I'm then going to click on the March, and that will show me the content in this middle area. So whenever I click on March, there's the 3 items that I have already brought over. I'm using Windows 7, so whenever I click on the blue bar at the top and drag over to the right hand side, it snaps to the right hand side of the screen, so that allows me to be able to see the content of that folder but in a much smaller area. So the next thing that I'm going to do then is go back to Start and back to Computer, and this time I'm going to snap that to the left side, and you'll see there I can see 2 folders side by side. Whilst I'm in the computer, which is down here, we can see all the other things in the computer, and this Canon EOS 7D is where the images are on my camera. So I'm going to double click that, and it's in a compact flash card in the camera. I want to go into the digital camera images folder and into this 100 EOS 7D folder, and this will start to list all the images that I have available on the camera. If we look at the folders on the right, the dates are in reverse order, so it's year, month, day, and then I give it a title. Okay, so we can see that everything up until the 24th has already been copied across, but I have some items for the 25th which are not yet copied across. So on the right hand side I'm going to click on New Folder, and I'm going to give that the date year, month, day, underscore, and I'm going to call that Morns, because this was a wee day out not that long ago. When I have created that, I'm going to double click Morns, and I'm going to put in a subfolder called Originals. Now you may want to call this Raw, or you may have another name, but this is the originals that literally come out of the camera. So if you do anything with these, you should save them out as a different copy or to a different location or into a different file format, and that allows you then to always keep a set of your originals as untouched, and on top of that as well, you always have a backup. Okay, you may also want to put it onto a hard drive somewhere and back it up every so often. So whenever I double click Originals, and we can see the path here, so it's the year, the month, the title with the date in reverse order, and then Originals folder. Now, one of the problems that I know that novices have in copying images across, sometimes they click on one item and they drag it across individually, and that's okay. But if you have hundreds of items, you do not want to be clicking on each item individually and dragging it across, because that's quite timely. It may also be that you only have a couple of items that you need to bring over, but you may have hundreds of images on your camera. And what you can do there is, if I click on this 3rd item, I know that I have the top 2 in already, so I'm going to click on the 3rd. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and if I go down 5 items and click, that allows me to select everything from the first to the last item that I clicked on, and it selects all of those together. And if I grab any one of those that are highlighted and drag them across, you'll see there it's telling me that 5 items are coming across with that. And the beauty of that is that whenever I put these into date order, generally I would click on the first one and shift click to the last one and then drag them all over as a group. If you have to do something really quick and you only want 3 or 4 images, What I would suggest is that you put these into large icons so that you can actually see what the images are, or even extra large icons. And that allows you to see them visually, and that will give you an idea of the ones that you really want to bring across. As you see them as a list or as details, the name means nothing to you. But regardless of how you view those, what I'm going to do here is click on 5213, and I might want 5211. So this time, instead of holding down Shift, because Shift would also include 5212, if I hold down the Control key on my keyboard, and this would be Command on a Mac, and if I click on 5211, you can see that there's two non-adjacent items selected, and I could ask for 5207 and 5202, and this mountain here 5200. And as long as they're selected, they will come across as a group when I click and drag those across. Again, you can see that there's 5 there in the group that are being copied over. Now, if you're wondering why these are in descending order whilst these are in ascending order, it's because of the name. Okay, so in this one here, the arrow's pointing upwards, telling me that it's running from 200 to 220. Whereas on this one, if I just change that back to details, so it's going from 220 down to 200. So one's going up and one's going down, but it really doesn't matter as long as you kind of get the idea. If I just change this one, they're now both going in the same direction. So 220 to 200 and 220 to 200. Now, we've copied some across and we've just done it. If I click on the first one at the top and I go down to the bottom date, also the same date, the 25th, and I hold down Shift and click, you'll see that everything is selected in that group, and you can see that there's 21 items. There's lots of other things that you can do. I'm not going to go into that at this point in time. I just want to get them across. If you grab all of those items and drag them into your originals folder, you'll see that there's 21 items to go. When I let go of this, because there's already some items in there with the same names, it will give you a dialog box asking what you want to do with these. So here's the first one. So 5202, you can have the choice of don't copy, or you can copy and replace it. My advice would be, if you do not section, I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I can't move that one. Okay, but if you do not section your folders into years and months, etc., if you just throw them all into the same folder every time, these could be 2 different 5202 files. So this image could be a landscape, this image could be a wedding photograph. Because what happens is, whenever your camera gets to a certain point of taking photos, the numbers go back to all the zeros, 01, and it doesn't really take into consideration the content of the file. It's only interested in the file name. Okay, so it's good to section your images out into months and into specific days and into original folders, etc., etc. For the purpose of this, I'm going to say copy and replace, because I know that I've just bought it over and I know I haven't done anything with it, so it's okay to copy and replace. The next thing is, there's another 14 of these items to do this to, and I could just hit copy and replace each time for each of those 14 instances, but that's quite timely. Down here in the bottom left, we have a little option to put a check in to do this automatically for the next 14 conflicts, and that's what I'm going to go with, and then copy replace, and that will just run through by itself. You can see them highlighting there in the top right, and they will continue to add until you also have 21 items in the right hand side. Typically, whenever you have a camera connected to your computer, you would have to come down to this little arrow and hit this little icon here to safely remove hardware and eject media. Because of my particular type of camera, I don't have that luxury, okay, so I can ignore that. There is an SD card there, but that's actually in my SD drive, so please ignore that. In order for me to get rid of the camera here, if I just close that down, I can right click on this and close window, and then I have to physically switch my camera off, which is connected to the computer, and that stops communication between the camera and the computer. And I'm just going to switch it off here. Okay, now we'll have our images into our folder. Let me just go over some of the folder structure here. So you can see that I have a photos folder, which is my big overarching folder. Contains all of my photos from different years. I've only got it back as 2015 because my 2014 and prior to that I have archived onto external hard drives, and I've backed that up twice, so I have them on 2 different hard drives just in case. If I click into 2015, and this is a single click, you'll see there that everything prior to October is also on an external hard drive. When I expand October, I took 2 sets of photographs. In November, I did 2, and in December, I did 1. So I'm just going to collapse that. In 2016, you can see here that I have 12 months. Now, typically if I was just to do January, February, March, April without putting in the 001, 002, 003, these would revert to be in alphabetical order. So April would be followed by August rather than going in the months sequence of 1 to 12. Hence the reason I put in the 001, 002, 003, because numbers come before the alphabet in computing terms, and that's all that you need to know. So whenever I look in January, you can see I've had 7 shoots. In February, I've had 4. March, I've had 3. April, I've had 3, etc., etc. Here I'm going to go to July, and whenever I expand July, you can see that I have a number of different items in there. Okay, and again in the main pane you can see that reflected there as well. I'm going to go into the SOM, and you can see here in the SOM that I have an originals folder and I have an exports folder. The originals were the items straight out of camera. Mine are CR2, and that's Canon RAW. Yours may be JPEG, they may be NEF, they may be the Sony RAW formats and other camera types of formats. It doesn't matter what your raw images happen to be, but they're the originals straight out of your camera. Now you'll notice here as well that there's XMP files. Those XMPs did not come out of my camera, they were generated in camera raw once I took them into Lightroom or Photoshop, so ignore those for the time being. Whenever I go back to the SOM center and down to exports, these are the images that I exported from Lightroom or Photoshop. So these are now JPEG in format, and you can see that whenever I hover over an item that it's a JPEG image. It was created in the 26th of July 2016, and it gives you the dimensions and the file size whilst it's in the folder. That file size in the folder is not the physical size, it's the compressed size, and that's all you need to know at this point in time. So again, just to reiterate, so you have a main folder called photos, you then have subfolders by the year. In each year you have subfolders for the month, and in each month you have your specific shoots, starting off with the date in reverse order, so 2 digits for the year, 2 digits for the month, and 2 digits for the actual day. And I always do a little underscore and then actually name what that's about. And then within that you'll see that, again just using the SOM center, I will have an originals, which could be my raws, doesn't matter if they're actually camera raw or JPEG or TIFF, and then I'll have an exports, which are the ones that I have worked with in a different software and then exported those as JPEGs. I hope that you found this useful, and I hope to hear from you again. Thanks for listening.